The coffee mug shattered against the linoleum floor. And in that moment, Sarah's world became very small. Hot liquid pooled around her wheelchair as laughter erupted from the booth behind. Her cruel, sharp laughter that cut deeper than any physical wound ever could. Her hands trembled as she tried to steady herself, cheeks burning with humiliation while the entire diner fell into that terrible, suffocating silence that follows public cruelty. At 16, Sarah had endured stares, whispers, and ignorance, but she'd never experienced such deliberate malice. Not until today. Not until 3 teenage boys decided her existence was their entertainment. Linda Pemberton had been waitressing at Rosie's Diner for 23 years, and she'd seen just about everything Highway 54 had to offer. Truckers, tourists, locals with nowhere else to go on a Tuesday afternoon. They all passed through those glass doors eventually, but watching those boys deliberately knock that coffee into Sarah Mitchell's lap while mimicking her cerebral palsy, then slapping the back of her head as they walked past, that was something new, something vile. "You gonna do something or just stand there?" The voice belonged to Margaret Chen, a regular who occupied the corner booth every afternoon with her crossword, puzzle, and endless pot of Earl Grey. Linda was already moving, grabbing a towel, her jaw set tight. Already called the sheriff, Maggie. Sarah's mother, Jennifer, rushed from the restroom where she'd been for barely 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That's all it took for cruelty to strike. "Baby, oh God, are you hurt?" She dropped to her knees beside the wheelchair, checking her daughter's scalded arm, her trembling hands, her tear-streaked face. They just... Sarah couldn't finish. The words stuck in her throat like broken glass. The boys had already left, their laughter trailing behind them like toxic smoke. The diner's other patrons looked away, suddenly fascinated by their plates, their phones, anything that meant they didn't have to acknowledge what they'd witnessed. That particular kind of cowardice that masquerades as minding one's own business. Linda helped clean Sarah up, her face a storm of barely contained rage. "Those Brennan boys. I knew their daddy and he'd be ashamed. I'm so sorry, honey. Some people just..." She trailed off because what could she say? What words could possibly justify such cruelty? Jennifer held her daughter while Linda brought fresh napkins. "We can press charges," Jennifer said, her voice hollow. "We can..." "Mom, please." Sarah's voice was small, defeated. "Let's just go home." But fate, as it often does, had other plans. An hour later, the rumble started. Low at first, like distant thunder, then growing into a mechanical roar that rattled the diner's windows. 12 Harley-Davidsons pulled into the parking lot, their chrome gleaming in the late afternoon sun. The riders cut their engines in near-perfect synchronization. Linda looked up from refilling Margaret's tea, her eyes widening. The Guardians. She recognized the patches on their leather vests, a local motorcycle club known more for their charity rides than any criminal activity. They'd raised thousands for the children's hospital last year. The door swung open and a mountain of a man walked in first. His name was Marcus "Tank" Williams, and he'd earned that nickname through decades of hard living and harder fighting, though these days he fought mostly for kids who couldn't fight for themselves. Behind him came the others, men and women with weathered faces, tattoos telling stories of loss and survival, eyes that had seen both the best and worst of humanity. "Afternoon," Tank said, his deep voice filling the diner. "We heard something happened here about an hour ago, something involving a young lady in a wheelchair and some punk kids." The diner went still. Jennifer, who'd insisted they stay to file a report when Deputy Morrison arrived, instinctively moved closer to Sarah's wheelchair. "How did you..." Linda started. "Margaret Chen is my aunt," explained a woman with steel-gray hair pulled back in a tight braid. Her patch read Phoenix. "She texted our group. Said she watched a disabled girl get assaulted while everyone sat around doing nothing." Margaret didn't look up from her crossword, but a slight smile played at her lips. Tank approached Sarah and Jennifer slowly, the way you approach something fragile. He crouched down, making himself smaller, less intimidating. "Hey there, sweetheart. My name's Marcus. My daughter had CP. She passed away 5 years ago, car accident. She'd be about your age now." His voice cracked, just slightly. "What happened to you today shouldn't happen to anyone. But I want you to know something important. Those boys, they're cowards, and you're braver than they'll ever be. Sarah looked at this giant of a man with tears in his eyes talking about his daughter, and something broke open inside her. Not broken bad, broken open, like a dam releasing water that needed to flow. She started crying, really crying, and Tank just stayed there, crouched beside her wheelchair, letting her feel what she needed to feel. "We found them," Phoenix said quietly to Jennifer. "The Brennan boys. They're at the baseball field 2 miles from here, bragging about what they did. We haven't touched them. That's not our way anymore. But we have a proposal." Jennifer listened, skeptical but curious, as Phoenix explained. The Guardians ran a youth intervention program. Kids who'd made mistakes, shown cruelty, demonstrated the kind of behavior that led down dark roads. They offered them a choice. Spend a day seeing the world through someone else's eyes, learning empathy the hard way, or face whatever legal consequences came their way. "We take them to the children's hospital," Phoenix continued, "to the rehab center, to meet kids and families dealing with disabilities every single day. We make them volunteer, listen, learn. Most importantly, we make them face what they've done. Really face it, not run away from it." "And if they refuse?" Jennifer asked. "Then Deputy Morrison has 3 witnesses willing to testify, security footage from the diner, and a community ready to make sure those boys understand. Actions have consequences." Tank stood up, his knees cracking. "But in my experience, when given the choice between facing what they've done and running from it, most kids surprise you." Sarah had been listening. "Will it change them?" Phoenix knelt now, taking Sarah's hand gently. "Honey, I can't promise it'll change them completely. But my son was one of those cruel kids once. Bullied a boy in his school who had Down syndrome. Made his life hell. Someone gave my son a choice, face it or run. He faced it. Today, he's a special education teacher. Sometimes people can surprise you. Sometimes they can't. But you deserve the attempt." Jennifer looked at her daughter, seeing something shift in Sarah's expression. Not forgiveness, that would take time if it came at all. But maybe something like hope that cruelty didn't have to be the final word. "Okay," Sarah said quietly, "but I want to be there. When they volunteer, I want them to see me there, not as their victim, but as someone who showed up anyway." Tank's face broke into a wide smile. "Now that's the spirit that changes the world, young lady. That right there." Over the following weeks, the Brennan boys did volunteer at the rehab center. They were sullen at first, resentful, going through motions. But Sarah showed up every Saturday they were there, working with younger kids, helping them with physical therapy exercises, reading stories, being exactly who she'd always been, someone with cerebral palsy who refused to let it define her limitations. And slowly, gradually, something shifted. The oldest Brennan boy, Tyler, started asking questions. Real questions. About what life was like, about challenges Sarah faced, about the kind of ignorance she dealt with daily. The other 2 followed, awkwardly at first, then with genuine curiosity. It wasn't redemption. Sarah's mother was clear about that. These boys had caused real harm, real trauma. Forgiveness wasn't required, and healing wasn't linear. But it was something. It was the possibility that cruelty could be confronted, that empathy could be learned, that communities could choose to respond to darkness with determined light. On the last day of their service, Tyler approached Sarah. "I can't undo what I did, and I know sorry doesn't fix it. But I'm going to spend a really long time making sure I'm not that person anymore. Thank you for letting me see you, really see you." Sarah nodded. She didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't. But she said, "I hope you mean that." Months later, Linda hung a new sign in Rosie's diner. "In this place, we stand up. We speak up, we show up. Kindness served daily." Below it, a photo, Tank and the Guardians, Sarah and Jennifer, and yes, even the Brennan boys, all volunteering at the rehab center's fundraiser. Because sometimes the story isn't about perfect people doing perfect things. Sometimes it's about broken people, cruel people, hurt people, all being given the chance to be better. And sometimes, just sometimes, they take it.